Hello, everybody. You're watching the Mike Nelson Show. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe right now. It really goes a long way. We have over 1,000 subscribers around the world, and I really appreciate everybody's support. For those of you that are supporting me, for the music, but make sure to hit that subscribe button. Today, I got a pretty cool guest. I got Bayrong Alavi of the band Samavayo. How you doing today, Bayrong?
Thank you. I'm real fine and happy to be here.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about yourself and the band. I know you guys are based in Germany, right?
Yeah, we're around and in Berlin, the capital city, and we've been touring across Europe and finally made it to the United States this year. And it's one of the bands playing quite a long time in Berlin now.
And where does your musical journey kind of kick off, Aaron? When did you kind of like start listening to music, or what kind of drove you into music?
Yeah, well, in the early 2000s, we came together as a band existing of people from the same school, and we never been a school band in terms of being a band already when we were on school, but right after the A levels and when we were finished, we started making a band, and yeah, just 2, 3 years trying to find our sound and always just jamming and playing around. And then around that time was when we first came across Caius and listened to stoner rock music from the States and also listened to the early Tool records. And with all the other things that we listened to, like alternative rock from the 90s and everything, we started making the music that we loved, and that was basically some kind of stoner rock mixed with punk elements and some prog elements. And so our first album was released in 2005. So basically, we can say that's the time when we really like started making the music that we do.
Now, what kind of scene was going on in Germany back in the 2000s you kind of had to start in? Was there like other bands like you guys, or you guys were the only ones?
Well, I think the scene was going to kick off. There have been bands like Rotor and Color Haze and this kind of bands that from the early days, but the scene wasn't yet so big as it is right now. The few festivals that existed, like Stone from the Underground, which is now one of the longest existing festivals, just had started in 2002 or three, and so there was a scene, but it was still pretty much underground, and that was the time around 2006, 7, 8 when Sound of Liberation, the now biggest stoner rock booking agency for stoner rock, started doing their job, and so I think that was the starting of the big scene that we have right now.
And you guys kind of started recording albums, and then you took that to all of Europe then right away, or was it kind of started in Germany first?
Yeah, I think I mean Germany is famous for having a pretty big infrastructure, lots of cities, lots of venues. So playing Germany is already enough for a upcoming band in the first year. So the first years were just Germany. So until I think 2010, it wasn't so common for us to play across Europe. We did some weird things in the first years, like we played in Greece 2007. There was a huge stoner rock scene in that days, but it wasn't so common to go there. We did that, but that was an exception. Normally, we played in that years in Germany. There was lots of cities, lots of venues, lots of places to play, and then we started like doing more and a lot of Europe later on.
Now you mentioned a couple bands from the 90s that were huge influences. Were there any other bands that the band can kind of mention that influenced
Yeah,
the
of course. I
sound?
mean, Soundgarden is an important band to us. Smashing Pumpkins is an important band, and yeah, we listened a lot also to metal music. But I think most of the bands we listened to were from the 70s, like Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, and also a little bit of Doors, which is probably a bit off track. And then we listened a lot of 90s bands. I mean, grunge was also pretty interesting for us. We never did something grungy, but listening to bands like Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Soundgarden, all that more heavy approach of alternative rock from the 90s, that was something that we liked a lot. And when Chaos came up and Tool. with a more like dirty sound and also more bass in Caius. That was pretty interesting for us. So we shifted a bit from the 90s the alternative rock to the more like heavy side without being a metal band or whatever, but still having like a lot of love for rhythm sections and less jamming, more songs and more rhythm. I think that that's what always defines Samavayo, playing a more, let's say, a proggy, heavy approach of stoner rock.
Now with Samavayo, like you guys, how did you guys kind of write stuff then? Is it like a more collaborative thing? How do you guys kind of write music?
Yeah, and in the last 10 or more years, especially the last three albums as a trio, because we're a four-piece until 10, 11 years ago, we started doing songs all together. So it's not like a mastermind thing where somebody comes up with everything and the rest has just to play. Uh, Probably somebody's coming up with the rhythm or riff, and it's not always that the guitars are coming up with things. Also, drummer Arno sometimes has a beat in mind, and then we try to find a riff for it. And then when we start doing the song, everything is like done together. It's that has proven itself as the best concept because everybody can identify with the music and plays every song with love, and it's not this kind of playing somebody else's song. Every song is also your own song because you have worked on it, and I think that makes a lot of sense for a band to always enjoy every bit that they play. And yeah, that's the way we are doing music first. But I mean, like a lot of bands, first the instrumental part, so the song is done instrumentally, and then the final decision will it have vocals or not. In our case, most of the songs have vocals, but the vocals are like the second line. The first line is the instrumental part.
Now, how was it like touring the United States? You mentioned that it was the first time ever, right? In 2025. How was
Yeah,
that
well,
tour?
that was really amazing. I mean, we Germany in Germany especially, but also doing music that comes from the States. You're a lot socialized with American culture. In Germany, you watch all the American movies, you listen to all the bands from America. So you actually know America from movies and news. A lot of news about America in the German media. So you actually know a lot of things in a lot of places, a lot of concepts, but it's always a difference when you're there and you see it. And what we um, understood more than from the TV is the whole concept of, the long roads, the driving, the big cars, the fuel prices, and everything makes a lot of sense, but it's a lot different than Europe. And what was also really amazing was the hospitality of the people. There was so much love from everybody, and especially from the bands. The bands from the States were really supportive. Like in the first place, helping us to set up the shows. That was the one thing. But when we were there, they like invited us for food. They gave us the money from the door. They said, "You deserve it more. You need it more. You're coming from so far away." Letting us play their equipment. That was so supportive, and I think a lot more supportive than in Europe. But on the other hand, in Europe, I mean, the standard that bands get when they go there is a bit higher. So, like accommodation is included, food is included. So the infrastructure for bands coming from abroad is a bit different. So nobody feels like pushed to give away the money from the door to American bands because they can split and everything works. But we still didn't accept ex expect the American bands to be so supportive and give us so much more than we like guessed we would get. And we had great shows. It was just great to drive around in that nature and that roads in the desert and to see Joshua Tree, to see Vegas, to see LA downtown, also a bit different vibes. And we were in Reno in the snow, so we
Hmm.
got like almost everything that we
Wow.
could have got in that 10 days. So it was really great.
Now, in terms of like the band playing, you mentioned also the influence then of American music in Germany. Is that kind of how it is then? That like there's like you listen to the radio over there, there's a lot of American music then in Germany?
Yeah, I think, for example, if you compare it to France, where you have a lot of French music in the radio because I mean it's also part of the laws and the rules that are set up for the radio stations. In Germany, when you listen, for example, to rock music, to rock stations, it's almost American music. I mean,
Wow.
only American music. A lot of English, British music, of course, also,
Yeah.
but it's all like Anglo-Saxon culture. And of course, there's also some German bands, but it's not like there's a fair share or a specific share or that it's really like visible. When we're talking about heavy rock or hard rock music, it's almost clear that it's going to be English. And so it's also pretty common that German bands sing in English. And I mean, that's just the culture we grew up in. And um, I think there is a deeper connection between Germany and America also because of the Second World War and all the rebuilding and setting up the country after the Nazi regime and everything. So there's definitely another bond which reflects in media consumption and listening to music and just also the part of American news in the German media. I think is pretty huge even before Trump or in other with other presidents. It's not just the sensation of having Trump. It has always been like that, and also the appreciation. Like when Obama came to Berlin, how many hundred thousands of people were there when he was talking at the Brandenburg Gate and everything. That just shows that there is a special connection, and we as musicians also notice this, like how much American and also English uh, sang music influences us.
Now, so you would say it's a little hard then to get your music like promoted in Germany then. Being a German band, it's kind of hard like to get the with all the competition. Is it kind of hard then being a
Yeah,
band?
I mean, it is a lot of bands in Germany. It's a huge market. I think if you see it like commercially, it's one of the huge biggest markets in the world. Even Germany not being one of the biggest countries in the world. So it's a huge market. There's a lot of bands, and there is a lot of bands from the outside, like all the American bands and everything. So we don't only compete with with German bands, we also compete with all the other English speaking bands from across the world. And but I mean, it's not about competition. It's just that it's a huge market, and that's the reason why there are so many venues, so many festivals, so many options for bands from abroad to do tours across Europe and then also a lot in Germany. And obviously for us, it's a great chance to get connected to all these bands without our history and our activity and having shared stages with American bands. It wouldn't have been possible to book a tour in the States without ever having been there. So it was just writing bands that we know from booking agencies, from Ripple Music, American label, and everything, getting in touch because of all this network that we have in Germany already through the bands coming over and playing here.
So what's the plan for the band for the rest of 2025 in terms of like new music or touring? What's the plan?
Yeah, we've been it's been a bit quiet after the January shows in the States. We did a big our huge Berlin show, Samavayo in France, which has been the second edition, and we invited other musicians. It was great. And then our bass player got uh, became dead for the second time, so there's a little break until July. And then I think 2025 will be a year of writing songs for the next album, but still we're gonna play another, I think 15 or 20 shows. It's gonna be a tour in the UK in October, which is the first
Wow.
time we've played in London a lot, like three, four, five times. I can't even remember, but we never made to do more than just London. So like this time we're gonna play 6 or 7 shows in UK, which is all rather the south of UK because yeah, the distances. And then we also are going to play some weekends in Germany and in Switzerland. So we're going to be around, but mainly focus on writing songs. The last album has been 2022, and then we reissued our first LP. We're busy with other things and still working also on a split 10, 12-inch with maybe a Ripple band because we have some songs left over from the last studio session in 2022. So in between this actions like touring and doing maybe a split, we also plan to write songs for the next album, which we're gonna probably record early 26. So even if it's kind of a rest in the summer, it's still a pretty busy year already.
That's the way it is. Well, thanks, Barong. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to subscribe, and as always, stay heavy.